Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Rod Rosenstein. There's a big story in the New York Times, man. It's a big one. And I don't know where this is going to go. We'll see. But they look awfully glum over here at the Wolf Blitzer show. This whole panel was like somebody had just, beat up their sister. Definitely. They look pretty serious. So I tell you, man, I don't know, man. This could be bad news for Rosenstein, bad news for Mueller. Seriously, I mean, they basically were saying this is a fireable offense if it's true. Rod Rosenstein, I think, is basically saying he was just kidding, or people from his camp at the FBI. It's all about him reportedly discussing wiretapping the president and also suggesting invoking the 25th Amendment about being able to go to Jeff Sessions or John Kelly, the chief of staff now, who was the Homeland Security Secretary at the time, and reportedly suggesting to McCabe that he'd be able to convince them to maybe invoke the 25th Amendment, which I don't even know specifics about what it is, but it's basically senior level cabinet members removing the president because he's mentally unfit to do the job, something like that. But it's for real, man. I just don't know. I mean, I don't know if come Monday you could be hearing a story about Rod Rosenstein being removed from duty. It's possible, man. It's possible. And even though some people are saying he was just joking, but there's multiple occasions. And see, what happened is there's a number of different things going on here. Andrew McCabe, who is in legal trouble himself, the person who was basically, I think he was fired. He also is potentially facing some criminal charges for leaking and things like that. He's using this to take down Rod Rosenstein, who is basically in opposition to him, to save his own fanny, something like that, But it's hard to know, It's just kind of the whole like deep state, feeding on itself. Good. So it says here, so supposedly he made these suggestions immediately following, the Comey firing, and where he was made to draft the letter, the memo that justification for Comey being fired, and also the suggestion of the loyalty pledge, and allegedly President Trump asking Comey to back off the investigation of Flynn, allegedly, and all that. So it was in that context that supposedly he made these comments in multiple meetings, though, not just once. That's why in this New York Times piece, it seems to suggest, even though some people are saying that he was just joking, there's other instances that, where he made it more clear that he wasn't joking. Okay. So I'm not going to read the entire article, but just so you understand, it's pretty complicated. Mr. Rosenstein made these suggestions in the spring of 2017 when Mr. Trump's firing of James Comey as FBI director plunged the White House into turmoil. And actually, what's even crazier is that in this New York Times piece, supposedly Rosenstein was saying he could have some FBI officials who were applying for the job of FBI director after Comey was fired to wear a wire, to record Trump. Crazy, So the idea of it just being a joke, I don't know. I don't know about that, man. And I'd say this is pretty serious, dude. And it's pretty. I think it sounds pretty good for Trump. I don't know, dude. I've had this theory, actually, for a long time that I haven't shared, that I actually think that after this midterm elections, I think Ted Cruz is going to win in Texas. And I think Ted Cruz might be the next attorney general. I've had that thought for a long time. And I almost thought that that's kind of why he really wasn't campaigning that hard, only up until recently, because it was just, was actually starting to become a real issue, and maybe there was a chance that Beto was going to pull it off. And I thought that that's why he wasn't campaigning, because I had this idea that actually he was just going to win, because he would win. It's almost impossible to lose in Texas as a Republican, especially against somebody like Beto O'Rourke. And then Trump was going to name him Attorney General, and he was going to be a good Attorney General. I like Ted Cruz a lot. And then I don't know who names the senator after that, but I had that feeling, and maybe that will actually come to fruition. So and then meaning Jeff Sessions would be gone. He's on his way out. So it says over the ensuing days, the president divulged classified intelligence to Russians in the Oval Office, and revelations emerged that Mr. Trump had asked Mr. Comey to pledge loyalty and end an investigation into a senior aide that was Flynn. Mr. Rosenstein was just 2 weeks into his job. He had begun overseeing the Russia investigation and played a key role in the president's dismissal of Mr. Comey by writing a memo critical of his handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. Mr. Rosenstein made these remarks about secretly recording Mr. Trump and about the 25th Amendment in meetings and conversations with other Justice Department and FBI officials. Several people described the episodes insisting on anonymity. Nice. To discuss internal deliberations. The people were briefed either on the events themselves or on memos written by FBI officials, including Andrew McCabe, then the acting bureau director, that documented Mr. Rosenstein's actions and comments. So I think both McCabe and Lisa Page, who I think is the one who was having an affair with Strzok, they actually took notes after this meeting or multiple meetings, and at least McCabe's memos are in the possession of, well, there's some of the copies of them are still at the FBI, but also some are, the copies are with Robert Mueller. And that's what somebody leaked to the New York Times. That's where this piece is coming from, and a couple of anonymous sources. And according to the CNN article, I think somebody's already spoken to McCabe or McCabe's people, and they have, or maybe even the FBI, I don't know, they've unequivocally said that he is not the source of these, source of this story, because that's why he was fired, was for leaking. So none of Mr. Rosenstein's proposals apparently came to fruition. It's not clear how determined he was about seeing them through, though he did tell Mr. McCabe that he might be able to persuade Attorney General Jeff Sessions and John F. Kelly, who's the Chief of Staff now, then the Secretary of Homeland Security, and now the White House Chief of Staff, to mount an effort to invoke the 25th Amendment. The extreme suggestions show Rosenstein's state of mind in the disorienting days that followed Mr. Comey's dismissal. All right? I mean, it goes on and on. He gives a statement basically categorically denying this, and but also, I just don't want to read the whole thing. Over at Wolf Blitzer, they were saying it was a non-denial denial, and that he crafted this in a very lawyerly way, basically not necessarily fully denying it, Let me just read his denial. Mr. Rosenstein disputed the account. The New York Times story is inaccurate and factually incorrect, he said in a statement. I will not further comment on a story based on anonymous sources who are obviously biased against the department and are advancing their own personal agenda. But let me be clear about this. Based on my personal dealings with the president, there is no basis to invoke the 25th Amendment. A Justice Department spokeswoman also provided a statement from a person who was present when Mr. Rosenstein proposed wearing a wire. The person who would not be named acknowledged the remarks, but said Mr. Rosenstein made it sarcastically. But according to the others who described his comments, Mr. Rosenstein not only confirmed that he was serious about the idea, but also followed up by suggesting that other FBI officials who were interviewing to be the Bureau's director could also secretly record Mr. Trump. I don't know, dude. Mr. McCabe, who was later fired from the FBI, declined to comment. His memos had been turned over to the special counsel, Robert Mueller, in the investigation into whether Trump associates conspired with Russia, etc. The revelations about Mr. Rosenstein came as Mr. Trump has unleashed another round of attacks in recent days on federal law enforcement, saying in an interview with the newspaper The Hill that he hopes his assault on the FBI turned out to be one of my crowning achievements, etc., etc. It's a pretty big deal, and I tell you, like I said, one of the things that actually made me think of it, made me go read the story, was watching this and watching the body language of these four people on this panel who can't stand Trump. seem so concerned about this and so not happy about it, including Wolf Blitzer, definitely. And they're all trying to talk themselves down from the cliff, like this is not good. And basically, I mean, it sounds to me like the president, Trump, has the legal justification to fire Rod Rosenstein, which would give him, then I don't know who follows in his footsteps, and that because Rod Rosenstein oversees is basically that's who the special counsel reports to. Big deal. And that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below, and I will see you in the next video. Later, man.